Today, we're diving into a really fascinating and honestly pretty surprising idea about what it means to resist. It comes from the great Polish poet Zbigniew Herbert, who came up with a very unexpected weapon in the fight for truth.
I mean, think about it. It's a huge question, right? Your mind probably goes straight to secret meetings, underground newspapers, maybe even armed rebellions. But what if the most powerful act of defiance was something quieter, something more personal, something that's already a part of who you are?
That's right, good taste. I know, it sounds a little strange, but in his incredible poem, The Power of Taste, Herbert argues that your own aesthetic sense, your gut feeling for what's beautiful versus what's ugly, can be the ultimate shield against a corrupt ideology. Stick with me here because this is a truly brilliant idea.
Okay, so to really get Herbert's point, we have to understand the world he was pushing back against. For him, this wasn't just some abstract political debate. It was a full-on assault on the senses.
The post-war socialist regime in Poland built what Herbert saw as an entire empire of kitsch. You know, that tacky, garish, sentimental junk. But for Herbert, this wasn't just bad taste. It was intentional ugliness. Think about it. The pompous, empty speeches, those depressing, gray concrete buildings, the crude propaganda posters everywhere. This wasn't just poor design. It was the physical proof of the system's moral emptiness.
Now this is where it gets really interesting, philosophically speaking. Herbert was a big fan of classical thinkers like Plato, who had this core belief that beauty, truth, and goodness are all linked together. From that point of view, something that is truly, deeply ugly can't possibly be good or true. So when Herbert looked at the official art style, socialist realism, which was basically just propaganda, he didn't just see bad paintings. He saw a confession. The ugliness was the tell.
And look, Herbert wasn't just some academic making theories from a comfy chair. He had the moral authority to say all this because he actually lived it. His entire life was a masterclass in integrity. Let's just quickly walk through his record. He saw Soviet occupation with his own eyes. He walked away from the official writers' union because he refused to write propaganda. He actually stopped publishing his work for years rather than submit to censorship. And this very poem we're talking about, he had to publish it through a secret underground press. This was a man who just would not compromise, choosing what was right over what was easy again and again.
So, let's dive into the poem itself. How exactly does he forge this idea of taste into such a powerful weapon?
First, he's very clear about what he means by taste, or smak in Polish. This isn't about preferring modern art to classical, you know? It's not trivial. For him, it's this deep internal compass where your sense of beauty and your sense of right and wrong are fused together. It's made of, as he so beautifully puts it, the fibers of the soul and particles of conscience. It's your moral and aesthetic core.
And he uses these absolutely knockout metaphors to describe the enemy of taste. Here, he paints the Leninist system as Mephisto, the devil from the Faust legend, but he's wearing a Lenin jacket. And this devil sends out Aurora's grandchildren. Now that's such a brilliant, ironic touch. Aurora was the Roman goddess of the dawn. Her grandchildren should be symbols of light, beauty, and new beginnings, but instead they've been twisted and sent out to do the devil's work.
He also goes after the regime's language, their rhetoric, their speeches. He says they were so crude, so clumsy, that Marcus Tullius Cicero, literally one of the greatest speakers in all of human history, would be turning in his grave. It was language with all the beauty and truth stripped out, designed only to bully and control. It was ugly speech, which meant, for Herbert, it had to be a lie.
So, it all boils down to this simple but absolutely devastating logic. Step 1, the regime's creations, its art, its buildings, its slogans, are just plain ugly. Step 2, if you buy into that classical idea that beauty and truth are connected, then ugliness must be connected to falsehood and evil. Therefore, step 3, the regime's ugliness isn't just a side effect, it's the physical evidence of its lies and its moral rot.
Now, this isn't just a history lesson. Herbert's message feels, well, chillingly relevant today. The poem builds to this incredibly quiet but totally staggering conclusion about what courage really is.
He says that to reject this world of ugliness and lies, to just refuse to play along, it didn't take some kind of grand, heroic act of courage. You didn't have to be a superhero. It was much, much simpler than that.
And here's the final, brilliant, ironic twist. All it required, he says, was a fundamental sense of decency, a sense of good taste. And then he just drops in that quiet, terrifying little detail. You had to do it knowing that the price for your good taste could be death. The courage was absolutely immense, but it was disguised as a simple, personal, aesthetic choice.
So, what do we take away from all this? Well, for one, that our judgments about beauty aren't just fluff, they can be deeply moral acts. That when something just feels ugly, manipulative, or crude, we should probably listen to that instinct. It could be a warning sign. Our sense of beauty and our conscience aren't separate things, they're woven together. And maybe most importantly, a choice that seems small and personal can actually be an act of profound ethical resistance.
Which leaves us with a final and pretty urgent question for our own time. As we try to navigate this world saturated with digital manipulation, with deep fakes and slick disinformation campaigns, all designed to look real and feel good, is that inner compass Herbert was talking about, that blend of aesthetics and ethics we call taste, is that our last best defense? Is it the final frontier for telling the difference between what's real and what's just a beautiful, dangerous lie?